they can get a handle on what we're talking about. But fundamentally, psychologists have understood that the soul is not something that you're born with. The soul is something that you yourself create as you live with this thing we call experience. That's what it is. That's what experience is for. The theater is time and space. And your will, your energy, your passion creates that which is meaning in your life. But my God, how threatening that is to the man of ego or the man who's been mistrained from the time that he's born.
Yeah.
He has no intention of giving meaning to his own life. He's waiting for George Bush to give him meaning. He's waiting for the media to do it. He's waiting for the neighbor to do it and the lover to do it. In fact, he's hot after a wife so he can get joined at the hip and have those children and get into that whole world, because he himself is empty, and he's saying, fill me, people. Now, he'll use the word love every 5 minutes if you give him a chance. And he'll, use the word patriotism and individuality and independence because they're performing. They know all the right sounds, all the right, cues and affectations. But those people are fundamentally empty. And they're saying to other people, you fill me up, making slaves of their wives and husbands, slaves of their children, slaves of their animals, and slaves of everybody they meet at work, and so on and so forth. The creative person is the inner directed person who can live in the world and enjoy the stimuli. It's not that you become a hermit or a monk. No, he can enjoy the movies and the music and the larks and the fun and all that the world has to offer. But he is not empty should that stuff not cease to exist.
It doesn't guide him.
He has an inner life, an inner enriched place that just, works.
Yeah.
He's able to manufacture and create for himself what is needed. Culture, civilizations at one time were able to do that, long before the time of, the entertainment industry. People performed, people dressed up, people did mimicry, people did puppet shows, people composed music, you see. People sat around the fire and told stories. They entertained one another. They entertained each other. The individual must have an inner life.
Yeah.
That person is much less likely to be vampire. He's going to be heavily vampirized, but he's a person who is full of his own enrichment. Now, the psychologists have discovered that of the two kinds of person, the extrovert or the introverted kind of person, the extroverted people are the easiest to hypnotize by far. So what does that tell us? It tells us, for one thing, not that extroversion itself is bad, but the ubiquitously, extrovert person is already under hypnosis. He's already a person who's bought into a lie, bought into the collectivized stuff, which is the fashions, which is this maniacal, the fashion statement is one thing, is one version of this. It's not the only one. So it's not like, you have to blame people who are into fashions. But fashion is one aspect of the consensus, that you have no sense of self whatsoever, that you've got to be, what the world is telling you and what the media, is throwing at you. Mm-hmm. But it goes way deeper than that. And therefore the person who is inventive, they are these extroverted people who know how to jump through the hoops. It's exactly the same thing you get in the academic world. The people who jump through all the hoops that the state provides and say, well, now I got a PhD, I must know things.
Yeah, can regurgitate well.
Yeah, but I must be intelligent because, look, they've given me my medal. They pinned me. They pinned a medal on me. They've told me I'm a PhD. I must actually know something.
Yeah, I have all these letters after my name.
That's it. And yet they know nothing. They're not even a single creative person amongst most of them. And they're not mavericks. In fact, they'll go after the mavericks. Those people now believe that they're the academic police who are going to tell the Immanuel Velikovskys and the Dr. Wilhelm Reichs that they don't matter. You see, so we have this kind of tyranny going on in our world.
Yeah.
The creative person, he's completely different creature. Completely different creature. He's inner directed. He's not waiting for the stimulus to turn us on, and he's not playing a role. He's not performing. In fact, he actually refuses to perform. He's something of a rebel. Yeah. He tries to not conform to any kind of pattern whatsoever and gets very upset when you try to, compel him to do so. That person is a truly creative person, even if he doesn't produce anything. He just himself is a creative person.
He's alive.
Well, yeah, he's alive, and most likely he will create things, amazing things. But you see, he will be an outsider. He will be the person who is the outsider because he's on the journey of looking for the truth of himself. The person who's conforming to the handrails of the world and to the conveyor belt, and who's basically has basically given up being a true person, being a true individual, given up finding out who they are. This individual will be automatic, and it will be the media and society and the government and all the rest of it that provide the scaffolding for the security that is required in that person. And this is what is happening all over the world today.
Yeah.
And that's why then people can turn around and lament that they don't have Bachs and Beethovens anymore and, Rembrandts anymore. Well, actually, we do. It's just that, you don't appreciate them, and you crush them whenever they should show their spirit.
Yeah.
Whenever they try to act individually, you shoot them down.
Yeah, you want to stop them, you want to get rid of them because they're not following what everyone else is doing.
That's right. And we don't even give them the breathing space to then maybe develop. One of the greatest adversaries in our world is time, the way that time is manipulated, and the way time is managed. The people don't even have a moment now to even finish a thought. They don't even have a moment to finish a sentence before they're being cut off by some other jerk sitting there, claiming to be a friend. Mm-hmm. Nobody even knows how to listen to another person anymore. And because we're in a culture of that, where it's perpetual, absolutely wall-to-wall, perpetual, how then can a person follow their own thoughts if they're not permitted by their friends to do so? So it's so deadly. It absolutely creates epidemics.
It's a vicious cycle.
People who have not even got the length of duration from one thought to the next, George, because the media has already jumped in there, or your friends are just wanting to cut off and blab what their life is about, and nobody listens anymore. And I found that, if you observe this, people don't even have the luxury anymore of even finishing a thought. What can you do with a culture who who thinks that the time between two thoughts is too long?
Yeah. Well said.
Incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, I tell you, and you've just defined a very limited number of people, unfortunately.
Yeah, but you can turn it around, because again, people will change when times get hot.
Yeah.
So even as much as the trouble that happens in society, or it seems that all is woe. I don't know. It's a strange quirk of human fate that they only change when their ass is on fire. So and sometimes I look at the darknesses in the world, and I don't complain about it, because I say, look, when everything's going rosy, because people have better food than they've ever had, they got the greatest kind of technology, they have more freedom than they've ever had in the ages of the past, they have more leisure time, they have more perks, people can travel, they can see the world. My goodness, if you compare our world just to the agricultural or industrial revolution, we have so much laid on, it's unbelievable. More privilege. And yet, 3/4 of the world is still starving. There's young children even in America who are starving. So there's problems, but you also have to look at the positive side of it to say, well, we need to really then use the positive privileges that we've got for the absolute best that we can do. Because, our forefathers didn't even have that. So things can turn around, but it just seems that until times get really tough for some reason, the human being does not value, because they've had the greatest music. You just played Jethro Tull. I couldn't survive it without listening to bands like that and that kind of music. People have had the greatest music. They've had the finest movies. They've had the finest books. They've had the greatest, columnists. You've had Lord of the Rings. Is there something out there that hasn't already told people the greatest stories, the greatest mysteries, the greatest myths? The whole story of virtue. We're talking about psychic vampirism. What was Professor Tolkien talking about of the Dark Lord? Where he has to give you a ring so that he can suck you dry of all your life force. Look at poor Gollum. People are familiar with the story. Sucked dry of his energy until he becomes basically a shadow. So tell me where it is that we have not been taught. And the greatest songs and the greatest, the tradition is there. It's all in your face. Fundamentally, there's certain people who just will not face it.
Yeah, and it's so easy, too. All you got to do is stop and listen. But, again, it doesn't happen until there's trauma and pain in life. Schopenhauer said, without pain, life is meaningless. And as much as you want to, rebel against statements like that, people prove it every day. Yeah.
Until trauma or pain comes into their life, until the universe visits adversarial energy on you, you don't get down to what is fundamental. And I wish it wasn't like that, but it is. Unfortunately, it is that people only, they will not wake up without a shock or without some trauma.